Yesterday, we ended somewhere unexpected, actually. We discussed that enlightenment alone is a trap. There are so many spiritual places, spiritual paths that are also trapped. The moment we think that we have achieved something, there is ego. And as long as there is ego, you have achieved nothing. This is the only thing that you have to understand. I have achieved it. I want to achieve it. I will get it. The I is the problem. The I is the problem. And that I needs to vanish into nothingness and emptiness. Because I am that. Okay? That's why I shared yesterday that enlightenment and running towards moksha is also a trap. I want to circle back to 39th verse of chapter 2, where Krishna is saying, he's saying nothing you do is ever wasted. Why this is, if we are trying sadhana, if we are doing tapasya, I want you to understand, if I say tapasya or sadhana is not required because there is no such thing as enlightenment, so what does that mean? Does that mean that whatever you're doing is going to waste? No. This is what he clarified to Arjun, that whatever you're doing, it never goes to waste. Nothing goes to waste. Not your prayers, not your mistakes, not even your confusion, not even the negative things that happens, the bad things, the good things, nothing is ever going wasted. Everyone and everything is taking you to the direction for you to realize that you are nothing. This world is just an illusion. For example, the foundation says in the Sankhya Yoga, see in the chapter itself, chapter 2 itself, Krishna is covering all the yogas. If you see carefully, the Sankhya Yoga says you are soul. This is the ultimate knowledge. After this, nothing is required. But for us, some people who don't understand this, that I am the soul, he explains other things. So he's saying you're the self, you are not the body, you're not the mind, you are the eternal Atman. Atman, God, universe, manifestation, Brahman, that, whatever people call it, you are that. Now he says, let me tell you Karma Yoga in action. This was chapter 239 shlok. No effort gets wasted. I want to tell you this because, do you know Vishwamitra? He did 60,000 year tapasya. He was doing tapasya for 60,000 years, the Rishi, Indian Rishi, and doing this tapasya is not required to get enlightened. Please understand, enlightenment does not exist. Only the mind needs to know the reality that you are nothing, that mind is nothing. Mind is not ready to hear. That is why we do tapasya. So Vishwamitra is doing tapasya for 60,000 years. Now, what's happening is, the result of the tapasya is that he sees this beautiful lady. She comes and she's trying to, disturb his tapasya. So immediately he starts shouting. All that anger and aggression comes out of him. What is this? This is the fruit of his tapasya. The fruit is that someone comes in front of you, makes you realize that you are not there yet. You are not, whatever the ego you are carrying, please leave it. Amount of tapasya he did, of course he got the ahankar, ego, that I should also be called Brahm Rishi, Maharishi, all these things, because I have done so much tapasya. A simple lady, beautiful, some apsara come and she tries to divert him. He starts getting angry. This is the truth, that he has achieved literally nothing. All this tapasya has only given him ego, nothing else. The result is that whatever he's doing did not go to waste. That is most important thing. Whatever effort towards reaching to God you're doing, it won't go to waste. Another example, for example, is Valmiki ji. If you know Valmiki ji, he was actually a dacoit. He was not a rishi. He was a robber and he lived in violence. Complete, he used to do a lot of violence. He was a robber and a dacoit. One day, Narad met him and he said, "What are you doing?" So Valmiki ji say that this is what I do. Then he says, "Okay, why don't you go and ask your family?" Because he said, "I'm doing all this for my family." So Narad says, "Go and ask your family that I am doing all these sins in your name. Will you take the fruit of my bad karma?" Okay. So Narad told this to Valmiki ji, and then from there he went to his family members and said, "Will you take the sins for all the sins that I have done? Will you take the fruit of that?" Of course, they said no. They said, "You are doing this for yourself. Don't put it on us." That is when he realized he got detached from his family members. That all this life I have been doing these sins. I was a robber doing violence. What result did it give me? My own family members are not willing to take the fruit of my actions. So he left and he started saying Mara, 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 which became Ram as a mantra. And then 100 years later, he wrote Ramayana. Point being is that whatever tapasya he did, it did not go to waste. So today, even if all of these things, until you realize that this world is an illusion, whatever effort you're putting towards it, towards finding yourself, it won't go to waste. You will find someone who will show you the mirror. Either you will find someone who will show you the mirror in the name of your family members, or you will meet a guru. If you are very lucky, if you have done good karmas, you'll meet a spiritual master. You are able to surrender to the spiritual master and he or she is able to guide you better. Lastly, you yourself become more self aware. These are only ways. See, you don't need a guru to know yourself. Okay, I give same example that I give for meditation. You don't need to sit in a uncomfortable position for 5 hours to remember your own name, right? You don't have to do that. Same is the case, you don't need a third person to come and tell you, "Hey, this is your name." You don't need. The problem is that we are just not ready to see ourselves. That is why if someone from the outside is doing it, it is much faster. Without guru, it is completely possible. Of course, it's possible because nothing is forgotten, nothing is lost, only forgotten. So, if nothing is lost, it's possible without the guru also to find it. But it's just faster with the guru. It's like a catalyst. If you have someone who stops you, guides you every moment, it just becomes faster. That's all. Now, here, if you see Arjun also in this situation, he's collapsing, he drops his bows, he weeps. From the outside, he's, looking like a failure, weakness. But what Krishna is doing, he's guiding him to step up and do the action. Which means never whatever you're doing. The whole point of me sharing this is I didn't want to miss this shlok by saying enlightenment doesn't exist, but that doesn't mean karma is not required. You continue doing karma unless you realize this, unless you self realize. It is called self realization because all you need to know is who you are. That's it. Self realization means know who you are, who I am. In the moment of weaknesses, in the moment of sadness, in the moment of unhappy environment, look deep down. Yesterday was good, today is bad, tomorrow will be good. It's a state of mind, it changes like weather. Today is sunny, tomorrow is windy, day after tomorrow is rainy, then back to sunny again. Or it's snowing, we don't know. That is the weather in your mind. It keeps changing. Based on the parameters outside, this also changes. That's all. Once you understand this small thing, you will immediately detach yourself from all the situations. All the situations. Understanding this thing and applying this thing in your life is the hardest. That is why we are suffering so much. By default, pleasure, anand, bliss is your true nature. Bliss is your true nature by default. You choose suffering. You choose suffering. Because you have desires, you want something, you don't get it, so you choose to remain unhappy. By default, bliss is your nature. By default, everything is blissful. But we choose suffering. So start choosing blissful moments in your life. Whenever you are suffering, whenever you are upset, think of this moment. My default is bliss. Whatever is causing me pain right now, experience it, then let go of it. Letting go is the biggest thing. We cling to things, cling to emotions, cling to our thoughts. We don't want to let go. So, all we need to do is just start letting go. And I also practice that. Now, the problem of a scattered mind, we're going on 44th shlok, where Krishna is, because we covered from last time 39 to 44, so we are continuing from 44. Now, Krishna shifts, he describes the people who caught in the desire driven action, who do rituals and prayers and sadhana, but only for results. He only says that people are doing these things. People are doing these things from 44 to 46 shlok. He's explaining Buddhi Yoga, why people are doing prayers and sadhana. I am not saying that sadhana will go to waste. That's what he's saying. There's no such thing as enlightenment, there's no such thing as moksha, there's no such thing as this world, it's all an illusion. But even if you do sadhana, tapasya, it won't go to waste. That's what he's saying. But then he's saying people are doing desire driven action. They do sadhana and tapasya or mantra, mala, prayers for some desire to be fulfilled. You know, I will give 10, I do 10 Lakshmi mantra to get 1 crore rupee in my account. You know, that is how we are doing. We are doing desire driven actions. No, for heavens, for blessings, for things. So this is a scattered mind, he's saying. This is a scattered mind. Scattered mind is all over the place. It wants everything. That mind will never have buddhi, which is one pointedness. Means vivek, which means knowledge of right and wrong. The karma is never wasted, but your ability to receive what the universe is returning depends on how still your mind is. So your karma is never wasted. You are doing your action. You are doing the best of abilities you are on the sadhana, tapasya, or in the universe, or in the good things, good karmas, or the good seeds you're putting, helping someone, helping an elderly, your family members. They don't go to wasted. But how you receive them is depends on the state of your mind. When it comes back, how you receive them, it depends on your state of mind. If your mind is constantly calculating, what will I get, when will it come, is it working, then you will miss the return. If you're constantly calculating when will I get it, then you will simply miss it. The universe might send you a difficult person to show you something about yourself, and you will just see a difficult person. A person opposite to you, opposite to your nature, is in your house to show you a mirror image of yourself. When they react, you see what is happening inside of you. You get impatient, you get angry, you get upset. The reason of the person is given to you is opposite, so that you see yourself. But what we do, we see the other person and we blame them. They are just the messenger of your karmas, messenger of a mirror image of you. Only universe wants you to see who you are. We don't want to go inward. We don't want to see. Mind has is very tricky. He doesn't want to see himself, you know. That's why universe has to play these games, like put difficult people around you so you self reflect. You start going in. Otherwise you don't go. Otherwise outward, so much pleasure, so much luxuries, you don't want to go inside. Oh Arjuna, the Vedas deal with these three gunas and three evolutes. Be free from those attributes, rise above the polarity of the opposites, remain balanced, be unconcerned about the meeting of the wants and preservation of what has been already attained, and get established in the self. This shlok has everything. We'll break it down a little bit. Vedas deal with the three gunas. Three guna is Rajo, Tamo, Sato. Tamogun is inertia, downward, lazy, which people may call laziness, but it's morely inertia, not movement. Rajogun is activeness. Then Satogun is spirituality. This we are in right now, Satogun. So Vedas talk about these three gunas, but be free of those attributes. Rise above them. These three gunas are also in mind, body, and intellect. They are attributes. You know how plants are there and there are different types of plants, correct? It's like that. Plants are different types of plants. Human beings, different types of mixture of Rajo, Tamo, and Sato. It's defining the nature of the person. But that is not you. You are not three gunas. You are above this. You are above Rajas, Tamas, and Satogun. Be free from these attributes. Rise above the polarities. Polarity of the opposites. Very important, polarity of the opposite. This world is built on duality. Two things: good, bad, happiness, sadness, beautiful, ugly. Okay? This is opposites. Shunya, infinite. This is the opposite culture of this world. Be above it. That's it what Krishna is saying. Rise above the polarity of the opposite. Remain balanced. Be unconcerned about the meeting of the wants. Be unconcerned about the desires. Rise above these attributes. Remain balanced. Always remain balanced. Some. Neither this side nor that side. In the middle. Stay in the middle. That is so hard because mind will take you either side. You see someone, oh, it's beautiful, one side diverted. You see someone ugly, one side diverted. Stay in the middle. Atman. Everybody is same. And this starts from looks, food, food, good health, bad health. All this, it's everywhere in sansar. But he is saying remain balanced and go above the desires of what has been already attained and get established in the self. The moment you establish yourself in the self means the moment you realize all these things are one side and you are the light that is giving it. Okay, there is a room which is very dark. Please understand, these are very deep thoughts. After the session, sit and do chintan. Roll this in your mind. What are you hearing? So once you enter a room, it is completely dark. Now you don't see anything. There's no bed, there's no table, there's nothing. You see nothing. The moment the lights are on, you see everything. Right? Things are beautiful, things are ugly. If the light is on, only then you can see beautiful and ugly. That is the soul. That is the self. Get established in the self. You are the light. You are the light. Everything else is objects. Krishna says, Krishna says to one who knows Brahman, the Vedas are like well when there is water everywhere. So what he's saying is when you are thirsty, you are looking for water. But when you are not thirsty, when you have all the water in the world, you don't feel thirsty all the time. As on obtaining a reservoir of water flooded on all sides, there is no use for a small reservoir of water. So a Brahman who obtains enlightenment has the same use for all the Vedas, or say no use at all. So as there is a big reservoir, it doesn't need a small reservoir anymore. Okay? Same is the case once you understand you are the self, you don't need Vedas. Either they're there or they're not there, it's the same thing for you. When you know the self, you don't need to keep going to the rituals and rules to find it because you already have it. But it doesn't mean if they're doing it, it means it's anything wrong. So be the water. You are the water. A great soul who possesses knowledge of Lord, the Vedas and scriptures is called Brahmasya. Now the next slok. Firstly, I think this one is very important for us to understand. When he's saying, when you have achieved it, all these books, text, words means nothing. All that are describing is part of truth. When you realize yourself, you become the whole truth. Right now, you are alone. Many of us feel lonely. Many of us feel empty, lonely. We need someone to complete us. We're looking for the right partner, a family member. We need love. The problem is that you don't understand. You don't need another person to complete you. You are complete yourself. You don't need someone to come in your life and tell you that you are, I love you, and you become happy. It's not required. You are the complete knowledge. You are everything. That's what he's saying. Once you become the reservoir, you don't need a small reservoir. You won't ask for love from people when you become complete. When you realize you are the source of infinite love. You're the source of infinite love. You don't need love from people. You will start giving love to people. And in this universe, whatever you give comes back. If you're giving hatred, if you're giving anger, jealousy, you will receive anger and jealousy. If you give love, you will receive love. In the 47th shlok, you have the right to action alone, never to its fruits. So he is explaining Karma Yoga now. So Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, Karma Yoga. Now this, he is explaining you have the right, Nishkam Karma, you have the right to action alone, never to its fruits. Let not the fruit be your motive, nor there will be any attachment to an action. If you don't think the outcome is the motive, if I study 3 hours, I will get A grade. That is our usual working style. If I study for myself, I'm studying for myself, for my own growth, then you will just study. But if you study to get good marks and good grades, then you will end up getting attached to the outcome. And when the outcome is not desired, you will get upset, you will get angry, and you will feel sad. The suffering is coming to you. So, Krishna is saying when you just do the action and not get attacked, not expect anything in return, don't get stuck to the fruits, you don't get attached to the actions, and then this is the freedom. The freedom that you all are looking for is within you. You have to do this. You have to stop doing things with expectations. It's so simple. You have been hearing this whole life, karm karo, fal ki chinta mat karo. Our whole life we hear this. How hard is it to apply? In your day to day life, even if you're doing household work or office work, you are doing simply for an outcome. If you go to office, you are doing work so that you get something in return. You get promotion, you get money, and appraisal, or a praise from your manager or your colleagues or your reportees. If you do at home, you are doing for someone gives you appreciation. Oh, today very good food you cooked, today this kind of thing happened. So everywhere you're doing things, you are expecting something. Every saint, every spiritual person is telling you this, but listening is so easy, applying is so hard. One action in your day, just one action, whatever you're doing, do it without any expectations. That I'm just doing the best I can. Let's see what happens. Any one action, anything, pick anything you like. Because suddenly, so many things you cannot start doing like this. Just one thing, pick and do like that. When you stop calculating the return, you stop blocking the return. You keep calculating what I will get in return, what I will get in return. Is it this much? Into 10 times, so 10 lakh. Into 100 times, 1 million, like this, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. So, like this, you keep calculating it. Krishna is saying the moment you stop expecting and stop calculating, you start getting the result. The universe can only move freely through an open hand. Isn't it beautiful? Universe can only move freely through an open hand, and we have closed hands. The more we try is a very, very easy example. If you hold sand in your hand, and the more you tighten your wrist, the more it will loosen out, it will get out, you know and the more you lose it, keep it free, the more sand you can have in your hand. Same is the case here. Same is the case here. The more return, more attachment you have to what you will get, more sand you will lose. The key is to not getting attached. It's so simple. Perform your duties established in yoga, renouncing the attachment. You need to perform your duties, perform actions, being steadfast in the path of yoga, renouncing the attachment, having become even minded in the success and failure, and that equanimity is called yoga. Success or failure, you are balanced when you don't expect success or failure, when you're not attached. When I'm doing something, if I'm going for running a race, very simple example, if I am, let's say I'm going in Olympics and I have to do 100-meter, okay, I am just happy that I reached here. Like, out of so many people, 8 billion population, so many people tried, but I am the only one who reached here out of 10 people. Okay, this alone is a big achievement. And if I'm saying I'm happy being here, I don't care if I win or lose, then I detach myself from the outcome. Okay, I'm detaching myself from the outcome. Now, if I win, that's a good thing, it's a bonus. If I lose, it's okay, because I'm already happy. Same is the case in your life. Wherever you are right now, 99% people aim to achieve there. If you, let's say, have 3 lakh rupees job, yearly, I'm saying, not even monthly. Yearly, if you have 3 lakhs rupees job, there are people who want to get that job also. You should value what you have. There are people who just earn 5,000, 10,000 rupees and they're living like this and maintaining their house. They have more family members than yours. So, always appreciate where you are. Appreciate it, accept it, acknowledge it. Say gratitude towards it, only then you will become happy. If you keep saying, if you keep chasing, you will never achieve anything, because the next goal will be there. You chase first goal, then next goal is there. You know how companies do OKRs, they have company goals, quarterly goals. So they already keep chasing. No time for success celebration. One done, next, then next milestone, next milestone. So you are living like this. Why do you want to live by milestones? So Krishna is saying, perform your duties in yoga. Yoga means connection to the self. Renounce the attachment. Detach yourself. Be even minded, means balanced, of success and failure. And that is what life is. That's simple. That's what life is. This alone will help you whole life. O Dhananjay, action with the selfish motive is far inferior to the performed with the equanimity of the mind. Means if one is realized self who knows who he is, that person doing an action and a person who is doing for selfish motives, that person doing an action, both, among both of them, the inferior one is who is doing selfish actions. You all are also doing selfish things in your life. You're doing for yourself, right? You go to job for yourself, your family, of course, that's also for your own self, right? You want a house for yourself, you want to earn money for yourself. What else? You want to go out, spend money, travel for yourself. So all things you're doing is for yourself, and nothing is this universe is doing things for themselves except human beings. Of course, animals who are following their own nature just for eating and sleeping, the tamasic ones or the aggressive ones, they are doing for themselves also, more closer to humans. But nature created by default is living for others, right? You see in Mahabharat, uh, Bhishma Pitama, when all these Kaurav and Pandav were young, they said, food is in front of you, but you cannot fold your elbow. So you cannot eat like this. So everyone is sitting, Kaurav are sitting, Pandav are sitting, and he's saying you cannot fold your elbow. So how will you eat? How will you eat? So he says, what Pandav did was they took the food and they gave it to person in front of you. This is showing act of living for others. If you do like this, if they do to them, you do to them, you're actually both can eat food. But what we do, what our whole life is, extremely selfish. We have selfish motives, selfish reasons to live. That is why we're always crying. If you do one selfless act in a day, you will always smile. You will always smile because you will feel happy doing something for someone. The important Krishna saying the important thing is, He's not asking you to become passive or indifferent. You know, he's saying endowed with equanimity, one frees the self in this life from good and evil. He's not saying become passive or indifferent. It's very important. Don't be I don't care. He's saying you will become above it. Inside, you will not get affected by this, but on the outside, you will still have to do things. Therefore, devote yourself to this yoga of equanimity, means balance life, self realization, dedicate your life to it. You also, all you have lot of problems in your life. Dedicate some part of your time. I'm not saying the whole life. Krishna is saying dedicate your whole life to Arjun. But for you people, just dedicate 1 hour, 30 minutes that you're doing right now. Change yourself. As wise men endowed with equanimity renounce the fruit of actions, they also freed from the shackles of birth and attain the blissful supreme state. Once live like this, if you live whole life like this, you will renounce the fruit of action, karam phal, and you will get out of this birth and rebirth. The karmic cycle will break. Then he's saying when your intellect crosses the mire of delusion, you will then acquire indifference to what has been heard and what is yet to be heard. Then you will start seeing, see what you are not seeing. Then you will start seeing when this practice matures, when you truly stop being tossed by results, when you become mature without getting affected by the result, without expecting the results, something happens to the intellect. Your intellect will cross the dense forest of delusion. This delusion, Maya, you will become indifferent to what you have heard and what you will hear. You will stop being moved from teaching, opinion, and a new spiritual idea. You will stop falling into traps. You will start seeing this world like matrix, the true matrix that it is, like how Neo found out. And when your intellect stands immovable, firm, still, and unshaken, that is the samadhi. Samadhi is not sitting like this forever. So, samadhi is being still in your own self, not as a destination, but as a this no more becomes a destination for you. It is a recognition of what you already are. So, this is what we are covering, the edge of samadhi today. When you realize, when you stop getting into results, you will achieve the state of samadhi where nothing affects this. Nothing on the outside affects this. And that is the state of samadhi. Not sitting, change clothes, closed eyes like this. That is not the state. So we covered this till 53 shlok today. We'll end the chapter tomorrow, chapter 2. Okay?